A century ago, after the awakening, spiritual energy became the most important energy in this world. With the increase of spiritual energy, beings evolved in two directions. One direction was a return to primal instincts, which increased physical energy. The other direction was spiritual mutation, which focused on energy attacks. People in this world also developed various spiritual energy professions within spiritual energy. Spiritual beast expert, 37 million subscribers. Spiritual material analyst, 39 million subscribers. Guy read the answers to the questions of these geniuses. For example, a guy wondered, what to do if you are bitten by a ghostly, shadowy, spiny spider? To which the expert replied that if you are a professional, you need a good spiritual being, and recommended ordering everything you need now for only $99,998, and then a person could get a super chance to own a premium treasure. In fact, it was just a native advertisement, where the so-called expert offered to buy something from him under the guise of answering questions. However, the white-haired guy who was lying on the bed thought that none of this mattered to him. It also said that not after being bitten by this spider, a person should not panic, drink more hot water, and rest in a ventilated room so that the body would not start to rot. The cat next to him began to complain that he was too hot. He reiterated once more for the guy that he was incredibly hot. The cat's name was Smart, and he was a subspecies of Baeksun beast. When Smart climbed on top of the guy's head, Lin Yuan inquired what Smart was doing. The cat admitted that he had heard that it was cooler where it was higher up. A slightly disgruntled Lin Yuan noted that Smart didn't go much higher. Then the cat reached for the window and tried to open it. At the same instant, a powerful wind blew into the room. The guy immediately moved away from the window, and the cat asked him to remember to take his medicine. Lin Yuan informed him that he knew about it. The white-haired guy's name is Lin Yuan. He is 18 years old, and he is the owner of a small store of spiritual beings. Although people in this world can use spiritual energy to promote the growth of beings, it all seems like a fantasy or fairy tale to him. Lin Yuan has been weak since he was a child. Starting from the age of 8, he couldn't sense the existence of spiritual energy at all, couldn't improve his physical form using spiritual energy like others. He couldn't contact high-level spiritual beings. Lin Yuan and Smart looked at the lily. This plant belonged to ordinary low-level spiritual beings. Lin Yuan regretfully noticed that using cloth to create shade still didn't work. The weather was too hot, and he was finding a good way to cool down the lily. Smart sadly noted that the lily had practically wilted already. Lin Yuan was well aware that as a lowest-level medicinal plant, it was too weak to survive on its own, and was even inferior to the green vine they used as fodder. In the world after the awakening of spiritual energy, all spiritual beings have differences in level and quality. All beings below the bronze level were considered low-level beings. Practically no one wanted to waste resources cultivating low-level spiritual beings, because compared to them, high-level spiritual beings evolved much easier. In addition, in the past 100 years, no one had ever heard of Baeksun beast's evolution. Just at this moment, Yin Yin, a subspecies of sound bird, flew up to him with a medicine in its beak. The guy thanked Yin Yin for his concern. With a body as weak as Lin Yuan's, signing a contract with low-level spiritual beings such as Smart and Yin Yin caused him to feel dizzy for half a month. So he could say little about his perception of the spiritual energy that contributed to their growth and level increase. A little while later, Lin Yuan and Smart were lazily bored in the store, being behind the counter and waiting for customers. Smart couldn't help but wonder if people really liked sleeping at home at this time of day and why the streets were so empty today. Looking at him unhappily, Lin Yuan remarked that he didn't understand what kind of nonsense he was talking about. The guy started shouting that the blue radishes were growing excellently today. He was trying to attract some customers. Just at that moment, a mother and her daughter passed by his store. The daughter noticed that there was a Baeksun beast in the shop, exactly the same as the cat she was holding in her arms. A strained smile appeared on Smart's muzzle as he greeted passers-by and asked if they wanted to buy some radishes. The glowing cat declared that the Baeksun beast representative in front of her had completely dry hair, and that she could immediately see that he was an unwanted commodity that definitely couldn't compare to her. Smart was deeply hurt by the words said to her. He couldn't believe that she even dared to say such a thing to him. Besides, since she was so sure of herself, he was suggesting that she solve everything through rock, paper, scissors. They were surprised at such a strange suggestion from Smart. Taking Smart in his arms and petting him a bit, Lin Yuan advised him not to get angry. Especially, he pointed out that Smart's plan to play rock, paper, scissors looked like a failure since the cat had paws. So he suggested we go for a walk. Still disgruntled, the cat asked what would happen to the store if they went for a walk and left it unattended. The guy was already closing up store, noting that it was okay, since they weren't doing well with their trade today anyway. Smart lit up at the idea, suggesting that the guy buy some meat today. He convinced himself that if he ate a few more pieces of pork, he would definitely get smarter. Then he certainly wouldn't lose to anyone. Soon they went for a walk. Flying beside them, Yin Yin advised Smart not to be sad. He noted that Smart may not be as smart as other Baishan beasts, but it cost much less than the others. Tears appeared in Smart's eyes as he felt that Yin Yin had only made things worse with his words. Closing his eyes, Lin Yuan sighed, for things could have been different if only he could sense spiritual energy. At this moment, Smart shouted for him to look to his left. Turning to his left, the guy noticed a dumb armored pig running at him. He couldn't understand why such a creature could appear near the park. The guy even speculated that something might have happened at the farm. Upon seeing the armor pig, Smart simply lost his mind. Saliva flowed from his mouth, and he tried to jump on Armor Pig with shining eyes. As he did so, he shouted that 50 tons of pork stew had arrived. However, Lin Yuan managed to intercept him, noting that Smart would not be able to defeat Armor Pig. Armor Pig glared at them in fury. Lin Yuan was surprised that the pig was furious. He knew very well that such Armor Pig were very gentle spiritual beings. Based on this logic, even Smart's behavior shouldn't have angered the pig. Therefore, the guy was completely unaware of what was even happening right now. The guy rushed to run away from the Armor Pig, but after a moment he felt tired. Today had exhausted him more than usual. Smart was worried about the guy's health, wondering if he was all right. Suddenly, Lin Yuan twisted his right leg. He immediately started falling on the pavement, causing the cat to be worried. Yin Yin assumed a fighting stance, promising to protect the guy. Smart also took an aggressive stance, intending to try the pork stew today. Lin Yuan tried not to lose consciousness and wanted to tell Smart and Yin Yin to flee. However, he suddenly noticed that everything around him was colored black and white. He was completely unaware of where he was and what was happening. At the same instant, he heard someone calling his name. Turning around, he noticed a giant bronze bracelet in front of him. He was surprised, even assuming it was the same bracelet. He had lost such a bronze bracelet when he was 8 years old. As soon as his blood touched the bronze bracelet disappeared. Suddenly, he felt the energy emanating from the bracelet descend upon him. He felt that spiritual energy that he hadn't been able to feel since he was 8 years old suddenly became palpable. In the same instant, he regained consciousness and tried to catch his breath, and a bronze wrist bracelet appeared on his right hand. No longer so formidable, but a frightened Smart ran past the guy, glad that he was awake. Yin Yin asked the guy to think of something faster. After all, at this moment, Armor Pig was already about to crush the frightened Smart. The guy hopelessly remarked that even with the bit of spiritual energy he had obtained, he still wouldn't have time to do anything. At this moment, his right eye shone with golden energy, and he looked at Armor Pig. Now he could see the information he needed about the creature in front of him. Spiritual creature name, unknown. Species, Armor Pig. Level, common level 3. Type, defense. Quality, common. Unfortunately, Smart and Yin Yin didn't even have level 1. Lin Yuan shouted for Smart to dodge as the pig would attack from the right. The frightened cat was still trying to fight for its life. The guy was well aware that almost nothing had changed for them in this battle, as the gap in the levels of his beasts against the pig was too big. Glancing at the bronze bracelet on his wrist, the guy mentally stated that he needed more strength. He hoped that if only the bronze bracelet was the spiritual being he had contracted with. Yin Yin tried to attack the pig with a sonic attack and told the pig not to touch Smart. At that moment, he noticed that the same light as from the bronze bracelet was coming from Yin Yin. He was surprised, assuming that maybe his beasts were about to evolve. The guy could only think that it was all because of the power emanating from the bronze bracelet. The pig at this point began to yell exhaustively. Smart didn't understand why the pig's voice was getting louder than Yin Yin's. However, Lin Yuan thought for the umpteenth time during this fight that everything was useless. Even if Smart and Yin Yin were on the verge of evolution, the gap between the first and third level was still too big. Therefore, the guy started to think about the pig's weaknesses. Smart and Yin Yin continued to frighteningly run away from the pig. Smart thought that the pig was too strong. Yin Yin asked Lin Yuan for help, as he didn't understand what they should do. Lin Yuan ordered him to start singing so that the pig would be distracted. In order to do this, Yin Yin must sing loud enough. Realizing the plan, Yin Yin decided to try what the guy told him and started chirping as loud as possible. Plugging his ears, the guy was glad that he had over 400 practice sessions before. The pig was simply furious. Yin Yin had angered the pig so much that it targeted him. Now trying to escape from the pig, Yin Yin was puzzled that did he really try to attack the pig just so Smart could take a break. The guy then ordered him to go back and attack the pig's eyes. Since according to his plan then, the pig would stop because it would go blind. Yin Yin decided to follow his advice, but suddenly noticed that he could no longer use anything. In the same instant, the guy fell to his knees and realized that his spiritual power had dried up. He was upset that his spiritual power had dried up at such an important moment. Looking at the bronze bracelet on his hand, he begged him to hold on a little longer. In the same instant, Yin Yin felt full of strength again, and a golden energy enveloped him. Yin Yin rushed towards the pig, and using a feather attack, he hit several feathers into the pig's eyes. Looking at the pig's confusion, Lin Yuan informed that Smart should now enter the battle. Interrupting his further words, Smart was already rushing into the fight, bouncing off Yin Yin's released feathers. He asked that the guy not to worry, after all, his name was Smart for a reason. Therefore, Smart knew exactly what was needed to attack the pig. While the pig was disoriented, Smart released his claws and struck the pig's nose several times with his claws. The pig then shook violently, and Smart flew off to the side. He was dizzy and disoriented, but wondered to the guy if they had managed to win. The guy assured him that they had won and that they were incredible and had done well. At the same moment, Lin Yuan started to fall down as he lost consciousness. Smart and Yin Yin were very scared seeing the guy in such a state. After a while, the wounded and enraged pig was running at full speed. The pig suddenly stopped in front of a man and a woman. The man admitted that he felt that something strange was happening. He couldn't understand where the armor pig could even come from in this place. The woman, however, took a closer look at the pig and was surprised. She noticed that there were bird feathers sticking out of the pig. The woman immediately assumed that they were most likely feathers from a bird that Lin Yuan had. The woman sadly asked Old Man Li to handle the situation by himself. She wanted to hurry up and find the guy as soon as possible. The old man agreed to her request. His eyes suddenly turned devilish. The old man summoned his pet and then apologized to his old friend for bothering him. Soon, Lin Yuan finally opened his eyes. However, he was actually still unconscious. He was a little surprised that he was once again in this strange place. It had been an unknown amount of time since he had first seen this space in his dream. Looking at the giant bronze bracelet, the guy stated that even though it was too late to say such a thing, he would still like to thank the bracelet for sharing his spiritual power with him at a critical moment. Looking around, the guy noticed that the whole place had an area of about 40 or 50 square meters. He even speculated that perhaps this inner space was the so-called inner space of the spiritual beast. Looking at the bronze bracelet on his arm, the guy wondered if this was the bracelet's ability. Looking at the bracelet, he noticed that the bracelet was called Mobius. Then he saw the rest of the information about the beast. Spirit beast species, unknown. Spirit beast level, ordinary grade, level 1. Spirit beast, quality, ordinary quality, spirit beast. Affinity, space, mystery. Skills, true data. Turns all complex things into data. Within the data may lie truths not discernible on the surface. Calm heart, passive skill, strengthens with the spirit beast's level, calms the mind, with some chance of resisting negative statuses. He remembered that he had already seen true data skill being used, so now he wondered if he could develop calm heart skill if he helped Yin Yin practice singing. Suddenly, he noticed that Mobius also had a unique trait. The guy was surprised, since the unique trait only appeared in beasts that were at bronze level, but had a unique trait already at normal level. He even began to wonder if it might be one of those divine treasures or a fantasy species. Unique trait. Spirit lock. 1. Mobius space can nurture spiritual beings. 2. The starting level of a spirit beast being nurtured in Mobius space cannot exceed the level of Mobius itself. 3rd, Mobius himself cannot raise his level in the normal way. His level will increase as the level of the spirit beings he nurtures increases. At the same time, he can gain the initial skills of the spirit creatures he is raising, but Mobius himself does not gain new skills as he raises his level. 4th, each time Mobius levels up, the number of spirit creatures he can raise increases by 1. The way Mobius increases his level remains the same. However, after reading the information, the guy found a weakness in this plan. Right now, he could only contract ordinary spirit beasts of the 1st level, which meant he needed to nurture them first before Mobius could level up. If he wanted to make another contract, he needed to nurture a level 1 spirit beast to evolution. That was level 10. Cultivating low-level spirit beasts was already costly, and under these conditions, even with a fortune, one could instantly go bankrupt. Besides, the guy was already poor and didn't have any fortune. Nevertheless, shaking his head, as if pushing away all negative thoughts, he decided that the current state of affairs was still better than getting nothing. At least now he could feel the spiritual power. Therefore, he felt that he now had hope that his future could change. Suddenly, he heard a woman's voice. The woman was asking the doctor why the guy was not regaining consciousness, although the doctor said that the guy was only suffering from nervous shock and symptoms of weakness. The woman was worried because the guy hadn't regained consciousness for half a day. The guy recognized the woman's voice. It was Aunt Zhang. So after looking at his right hand, the guy decided that it was time for him to leave this strange place. After a moment, he opened his eyes. In the same second, he found that Smart and Yin Yin were trying to bring him to his senses and were very worried about his life. Lin Yuan crouched down and petted the cat. He informed them that he was fine. The guy noticed that Smart was so worried about him that he couldn't even speak properly. At that moment, Aunt Zhang and a doctor entered the hospital room. The doctor pointed out that Aunt Zhang was very worried about the guy, so in order to avoid any trouble, the doctor wanted to examine the guy. Lin Yuan reassured Aunt Zhang and the doctor that there was no need to do so. However, Aunt Zhang was very worried about him because he had been unconscious for almost 10 hours. She felt that if the guy was sick, he needed to be treated. Besides, she reminded him that a mild illness could turn into a severe one. After listening to her advice, the guy went back to bed. At that time, he also decided that even if Old Man Li and Aunt Zhang took care of him, he didn't want to tell them about Mobius yet. After that, the doctor summoned his spirit beast. The guy immediately began to consider the doctor's summoned beast, as he could finally feel the spiritual power. The doctor summoned a clear pond carp. Spirit beast species, carp family, carp genius. Level elite grade, level 4. Affinity water, quality ordinary quality. Skills, tail strike, jumps up and lashes with tail, scale. Cleanse, slightly heals mental wounds, can ease abnormal mental states. The guy was delighted because Clear Pond Carp was truly worthy of elite level in his opinion, as it had an incredibly rare skill. After a moment, the doctor informed the guy that he had no problems. He then informed that it was time for him to go, as his wife was expecting him home for dinner. The woman thanked the doctor for his help and that he had calmed her fears. At that moment, a spirit beast appeared in the doorway of the room with dinner. Aunt Zhang held out the food to the guy. She confessed that Uncle Li had prepared this food especially for him, and that Old Man Li had endeavored to prepare a nutritious dinner for the guy. However, if the guy can choose not to eat this food if he doesn't want to, they overestimate the poor guy's ability to refuse food. The guy said with a smile on his face that he could hardly refuse the food that was prepared especially for him. Yin Yin was delighted by the smell when the guy opened the food. Smart was also enthusiastic when he saw the pork stew in there. The rabbit at this time sat down on Aunt Zhang's legs, who was stroking it with her hand. After paying attention to the rabbit, the guy remembered that Uncle Li's rabbit had always been quite mysterious, and it wasn't as agile as other rabbits. Therefore, he decided to take a look at the information about the rabbit. However, he couldn't get any information about the rabbit because all the information about the rabbit had question marks. The guy was even surprised when he saw the rabbit information had question marks all over it. However, he did get the information that the rabbit had two unique traits. In addition, he realized that the rabbit in front of him was not the terror rabbit as he had thought before. The journey of a guy named Lin Yuan into a world completely new to him is just beginning. Since the age of 8, he had lived the life of a complete failure. What's more, there was no light at the end of the tunnel in his life. He was lonely, his family situation was dire, and his shop was unprofitable. In a world full of spiritual beings, he felt no spiritual power at all. In short, the guy lived the life of a typical loser. The only thing he had were two beasts, Smart and Yin Yin, who were kind to him, just as he was to them. With the awakening of a bronze bracelet named Mobius, the guy's future became less bleak than before, and he and his spiritual beasts found at least a small glimmer of hope for a bright future. Soon Lin Yuan was making desperate attempts to increase his endurance, so he tried to train by running. In the end, he soon stopped as he was extremely tired. The guy was trying to catch his breath after jogging. Since he was released from the hospital, he had been running for 1 hour every day. But he still felt that the intensity of the workout was still too high for him. After all, without the spiritual energy that had been strengthening his body since childhood, it seemed like he should have given up on martial professions and tried to focus and consider the options of peaceful professions. Just at this moment, Aunt Zhang and Uncle Li greeted him. Uncle Li cheerfully pointed out that the guy had been practicing since early in the morning. All sweaty, the guy tried to show off his right biceps, explaining that he wanted to become healthy and strong. Looking at Uncle Li's legs, the guy could now clearly see what the man's problem was. Name: tarsal necrosis. Source: necrotic bone threadworm. Grade: platinum tier and above. Effect: biological toxin mixed with a spiritual curse. After necrotic bone threadworm penetrates flesh and blood, it sacrifices itself to form tarsal necrosis. Uncle Li was infected with such a powerful toxin in the calf of his leg, and quite some time ago. Therefore, the guy thought about the fact that he should most likely be at least king level. He thought that if the situation was as bad as he saw, it meant that Terror Rabbit might be as seriously injured as Uncle Li. The guy wondered if he had taken this form to recover. Terror Rabbit seemed like an incredibly secretive beast to him. As they were about to leave, Uncle Li reminded him to remember to call them if anything happened. If Chu-Chi needed to pay any bills, the guy shouldn't handle everything by himself, but ask for their help. The guy politely thanked his uncle and aunt, asking them not to worry about anything. Uncle Li had always taken care of him and Chu-Chi. Therefore, the guy pondered whether there was a way to cure his uncle. With his new abilities, he wondered if he could cure Uncle Li himself. After seeing his uncle and aunt off, the guy returned to his store. Turning to the plant in front of him, he was greatly surprised. In front of him was green vine, Qing Luo. Species: Aracea philodendron. Grade: normal tier. Level 3. Type: grass. Quality: elite quality. The guy was very surprised that the plant now had an elite quality, as it had a normal quality yesterday. He didn't understand how the plant could have changed so drastically. Seeing the transformation of the plant, the guy thought that perhaps his spiritual energy wasn't being dissipated at all, but rather absorbed by the spiritual beings so that they could evolve. After approaching the green vine, the guy decided that it was time to enhance hard and straight away, so that the plant would evolve into a healing type, Lily. Green vine is the lowest level spirit creature, essentially equivalent to an ordinary plant that is mostly used as food. After a moment, the plant in front of him shimmered with a bright light, and was now glistening. The plant in front of him was now a lily plant. Species: Crassulacea ionium. Grade: elite tier level 1. Type: wood. Quality: normal quality. Skills: healing, recovers external wounds. Fragrance: a faint, fresh herbal scent that soothes nervous tension. Lin Yuan was incredibly excited as his assumption worked, and he obtained an elite level lily. With the use of this skill, the value of the plant increased by at least 10 times. Running up to the stairs, he shouted for Smart and Yin Yin to stop sleeping and come to him to see what he had accomplished. At the same instant, Smart and Yin Yin appeared beside him. An overjoyed Yin Yin bragged to the guy that he had finally managed to level up. Smart was also happy about raising his level. Smart was all shiny, presenting his changes to the boy. Name, Beishun beast. Species, feline, smart cat. Grade, normal tier level 2. Type, spirit. Quality, normal quality. Skills, precise memory. When memorizing information, it can accurately remember every minute detail. Smart boasted that while he could only memorize one portion of pork stew before, he could now memorize 30 portions. Yin Yin wasn't so simple either. Name, soundbird. Species, bluefinch choch kingfisher. Grade, normal tier level 3. Type, sound. Quality, normal quality. Yin Yin felt that after his level increased, his singing became much better. The guy grabbed Smart and hugged him. At this moment, yuan money signs appeared in his eyes. Guy was incredibly excited, admitting to his pets that he had discovered a cheater ability in his arsenal, and so they would soon get rich. Yin Yin, who was standing nearby, tried to understand what kind of ability Lin Yuan was talking about. However, in the same instant, the guy was struck by lightning. He realized that his new ability opened up a much more meaningful path for him than just the path to wealth. The evolution of spiritual beings is incredibly difficult. Except for the very few beings who have evolved naturally and possess spiritual abilities, most require the Creator to consume large amounts of valuable materials and spiritual herbs. Only then would a spiritual being who had reached a critical level have a chance to evolve. However, the guy relied solely on himself, using only his ability. His face covered in cold sweat as he thought about the fact that his frightening method would definitely attract countless people who would want to use it. One wrong move, and he could become that big closet that was falling down loudly. Therefore, Lin Yuan has made the decision that as long as he is unable to protect himself, then he cannot tell everyone about his ability, putting his and others' lives at risk. In order to use his abilities safely, he will have to become a creator. So use this profession as a cover for his long-term success. Otherwise, he would inevitably bring trouble upon himself. At this moment, Yin Yin called out to him. Yin Yin flew holding the guy's phone in his claws. Smart pointed out to the guy that the phone was ringing and that Chu Chi was calling. The guy thanked them. Only now did he remember that if he counted the days, Chu Chi would soon have to make a contract with the first spiritual being. Answering the call, he wondered with a slight smile if Chu Chi was calling him. His sister admitted that she hadn't called him for a few days, so she wanted to know how he was feeling. Lin Yuan was in high spirits, told his sister that his health was better, that he even planned to tidy up the backyard today. Suddenly, she was sharply surprised at what her brother had said. She was indignant, noting that since he was not feeling spiritual energy, he was unlikely to be up to the task of tidying up the backyard. His sister told him to forget about cleaning up the backyard and that they would discuss the problem some more when she got home. However, Lin Yuan had already become so cool that he began to change his sister's mind, pointing out that he had only planned just a little cleaning in the backyard. He asked his sister not to worry, stating that he was not that weak. Her brother even reminded her to remember their agreement. He believed that she should study hard at school and not waste her talent. In the end, her sister agreed with him that she remembered their agreement. Finishing the call, she looked up as if she was praying. She wanted at all costs not to let her brother down. Meanwhile, Chu Chi's school day continued. The teacher was telling the students that in the next 2 days they would make a pact with their first spirit being. The woman kept emphasizing over and over again that this was one of the most important days for the students. The teacher reminded the students that while the quality and level of the spirit being is crucial, the level of the owner utilizing the spiritual energy also affects the unleashing of the beast's martial power. The interactions between different martial classes vary greatly. If a spirit beast does not match the personal preferences of a particular student, it will be very difficult for the student to make a successful contract with that spirit beast. In addition, if such a problem were to occur, the student might even suffer mental damage. The teacher continued to explain to the students, noting that even mundane professions such as a craftsman or weaver required long practice and understanding of spirit beings to learn how to combine spirit materials. In addition, the teacher added that their training class was more focused on preparing combat professionals. So choosing the right spirit beast required much more careful thought on the part of the students. Finally, the class came to an end, and the students began to leave the room. Chu Chi was about to leave like the other students, but the teacher asked her to stay. The teacher was very unhappy with the spiritual beast she had chosen. She asked the girl to think carefully about her future. Besides, the teacher was well aware of the girl's family situation. The teacher was not a bad or arrogant person, but rather wanted to help the girl. After all, the girl's fate depended on this choice. The woman thought that Chu Chi was exceptional, and since the selection of 100 successors to the Federation was approaching, the teacher believed that the girl should not miss the opportunity. However, the girl from a poor family, where her brother's health was poor, did not know what to say to her teacher. Meanwhile, Lin Yuan did not sit idle, but worked hard. He was so happy that he had managed to upgrade 3 more lilies to elite tier. The guy was delighted, as he understood that all this was worth at least 20,000 federal coins, which meant he now had hope of buying a high-level spirit beast so that his sister Chu Chi could sign a contract with it. At this moment, his phone rang. The guy was initially surprised that someone from an unfamiliar number was calling him, but then he thought it was a buyer calling him and that the buyer's call was incredibly timely. After answering the phone, the guy tried to find out who was calling him. However, an angry voice came out of the receiver. The teacher refused to give up and decided to contact him. She inquired if he was Chu Chi's guardian. Without even hearing the guy's reply confirmed, she began to notify him that he should know that Chu Chi had chosen Grey Beetle for herself. The woman believed that Chu Chi had an incredible talent that couldn't be squandered so easily. Lin Yuan was surprised that his sister had decided to make a contract with Grey Beetle. Grey Beetle is a normal-level spirit creature that can be bought for 200 coins, and it's also extremely aggressive, with a useless skill. No one would want to make a contract with it. It could only serve as fodder for high-level insect-eating creatures. The teacher explained to him that Chu Chi's ability range extended to all defensive-type spirit beasts. She pointed out that such a quality was incredibly rare, even in the entire Zijing city. Ideally, the teacher would want Chu Chi's parents to train an elite defensive-type spirit beast for her first contract. The guy's mood abruptly changed from joyful to anxious. He thanked the teacher for informing him about the incident, and then he promised that he would definitely deliver a suitable spirit being for Chu Chi in these 2 days. Finishing the call with the teacher, he was well aware that the elite-tier spirit beast would cost at least 100,000 federal coins. Looking at the plant in front of him, he realized that the time to accomplish the goal was extremely limited. He needed to turn all these normal-tier green vine into elite-tier ones, and then exchange them for a high-end protective spirit beast for Chu Chi. It's a pity that in life you can't solve the issue of finances so easily, where the only option will be either to borrow money from friends or acquaintances, or to take out a loan, and it is not a fact that this amount may be enough. Moreover, this way you get into huge debts from which it is hard to get out later. The next morning, Lin Yuan walked out of the house with a look on his face and body as if he wanted to show everyone that he had been squeezed dry like a lemon. He began to complain that he had been practicing his spiritual energy transmission all night and was incredibly tired as a result. But in the end, he still managed to get everything he needed done. The spiritual goods market was full of all sorts of goods, so he pulled up the hood of his jacket, wanting not to stand out. Lin Yuan inquired if Smart definitely wanted to go along with him today. Smart believed that the guy would no longer be able to deceive him with words that Smart should stay at home to guard the house. Plus, he reminded him that being able to bargain was one of Bai Chun Beast's duties. With a slight sigh of disappointment, the guy noticed that after evolution, children become stubborn and disobedient. Just at that moment, a vehicle, which the driver called a bus, began to approach them. The driver asked passengers to wait behind the yellow line. Smart was surprised that this vehicle was called a bus because he had seen another bus. Lin Yuan corrected him by explaining that Smart had read about buses in a history book, not in a guide to modern transportation. As it turned out, 100 years after the recovery of spiritual energy, various spiritual beings had long since replaced some of the iron mechanisms. As soon as they got on the bus, the driver announced that the bus was going. However, Smart did not know how fast a modern bus travels, so he almost flew out the window. The driver asked if the guy was going to the spiritual market. He said that today was the best time. Lin Yuan tried to find out why the driver thought so and if there were any new spiritual beings in the market. The driver was surprised that the guy hadn't seen the latest news. Nevertheless, he told the guy that a spatial rift had opened 30 miles away from Jia County. It took the Zijing guards 2 days to surround and destroy the swarm of alien insects that had escaped from the spatial rift and bring the situation under control. The driver had even heard the information that there were still 3 squads of Zijing guardians remaining at a post nearby and keeping watch. The guy was a bit surprised when he heard such information. The driver also told him that a spatial rift had opened up near the spiritual beast breeding base. The spirit beings were dying and being injured, and the few employees who escaped were selling the injured spirit beings right on the market. Even Smart has now finally figured out how the armor pig that attacked them recently escaped. The driver reported that there were a particularly large number of escaped armor pigs. He even boasted that he had managed to catch 1 armor pig yesterday as well. When the armor pig dish was served yesterday, the entire village went crazy, fighting over every piece of armor pig. The remaining meat was hung up to make jerky. Guy complimented the driver on the fascinating story and then asked the driver to stop the bus near the tents. The guy was delighted with the driver's information, as the price of severely wounded and maimed spirit beings would surely be low and he could catch a fortune. Strange that it's called a bus when it's basically a taxi. Lin Yuan's adventures continue, and his plan to sell the plants and buy an expensive elite-tier spirit beast sounds rather dubious in his ideas of not attracting unnecessary attention from anyone. Finally, they climbed out of the bus and began to look around the market for items of interest. With eyes burning with excitement, Smart declared that the guy could leave the task to him. Smart tried to ask the guy what kind of spiritual beast they needed to buy, and also wanted to know about the price of the beast. Lin Yuan explained that they needed a defense-grade, elite-grade spirit beast. He then confessed that the price of such a spirit beast would probably be 100,000 federal coins. Smart was shocked by this confession because he knew very well that their current budget was at most 20,000 federal coins. The guy was fine with it himself, so he wanted to use yesterday's improved green vine and lily for the exchange. Smart felt that in such a case the merchants would definitely use them and rob them. Lin Yuan was already continuing to calculate the family's current budget. 1 ordinary green vine was worth between 1,500 and 3,000 federal coins. Thus he was still lacking some amount of money. But suddenly, looking at the plants in front of him, it was as if he felt that the plants were calling him. He could now clearly feel an instinctive kinship to some spiritual beings and rejection by others. The brighter the radiance, the stronger the feeling of kinship was. At this moment he thought of clear pond carp, nether orchid, snow lily, 1,000-gem jewel. It surprised him that he actually had quite a large affinity with many spiritual types of spiritual beings. He had an affinity with healing-type spiritual beings and support-type spiritual beings. To plant-type beings, he also instinctively felt an affinity. At the same time, Chu-Chi felt kinship with protective-type spiritual beings. However, he was distracted from his train of thought by Smart, who called him over to look at the beast. Smart started haggling with the merchant. Smart offered 10,000 federal coins for the beast, but the merchant stated that the spirit beast was worth 70,000 federal coins. Smart then raised the figure to 15,000 coins, but the merchant irritably stated that 60,000 coins was his final price for the spirit beast. Smart continued to stand his ground, saying that he would give 20,000 coins for the spirit beast, or else the deal would not go through. Lin Yuan went to see what kind of beast Smart had decided to bargain with the merchant for. Name: hardskin rabbit. Species: Leporidae, common rabbit genus. Level: Elite 1. Type: Defense. Quality: Ordinary. Skill: Hard hide, can form a layer of tough skin outside the contractor's body to help block damage. The guy approached the disgruntled merchant and apologized to him, noting that his bison beast was a bit impulsive. Smart didn't understand what Lin Yuan was doing. He thought that if he kept haggling, he would definitely be able to get the hard-skin rabbit for 20,000 federal coins. Lin Yuan smirked and told Smart that Smart should know the rule that before buying, you should compare the price and items and in different places. Then they met apparition turtle, species, land turtle family, domestic turtle genus, level, common, type, defense, quality, ordinary, skill, giant form, can enlarge its body and shield the contractor behind it to help block attacks. However, Apparition Turtle disappointed the guy. He was dissatisfied because the level of the beast wasn't high enough, and he didn't have enough time to level up the beast. And Smart was not happy with Apparition Turtle because the beast moved too slowly. Walking through the marketplace further, they found Phantom Armadillo. Species, Armored Family, Edentate Genus. Level, Elite 1. Type, Defense. Quality, Ordinary. Skill, Roll Up. Can curl itself into a ball to roll and physically block attacks for the contractor. Lin Yuan was frustrated as he realized that Phantom Armadillo was no different from Hardskin Rabbit. Smart, on the other hand, did not understand how such a shy beast could protect Chu-Chi. After walking around the market for a bit, Smart had already started to suggest that the guy reconsider his attitude towards the Hardskin Rabbit. However, the guy was still hopeful and wanted to walk around the market a bit more, hoping to find a suitable spirit beast for his sister. After all the searching, he was left with only one last option that he hadn't seen yet. From the last merchant, he found two kinds of beasts. The first was the spiral-horned ram. Species, Caprinae, horned sheep genus. Level, Elite 7. Type, Rock. Quality, Perfect. Skill, Parry. Uses its large horns to resist and defend. Horn Strike rams its horns into the target. The second was the spiral-horned ram. Species, Caprinae, horned sheep genus. Level, Elite 7. Type, Rock. Quality, Perfect. Skill, Parry. Uses its large horns to resist and defend. Check horn, ramming attack that delivers high-frequency vibrations, causing paralysis in the struck target. The excited guy asked the merchant if the merchant would agree to sell him one of the spiral-horned ram for 100,000 federal coins. Smart was surprised that the guy was offering the merchant as much as 100,000 for such a beast. Removing the newspaper from his face, the merchant looked at the guy and then asked the guy to hold on, as he needed to call his wife first. While the peddler was calling his wife, Smart admitted to the guy that he had checked the prices of the beasts online yesterday. He pointed out to the guy that a spiral-horned ram was only worth about 50,000 federal coins, and even the rarest breed spiral-horned ram was only worth 90,000 federal coins. Therefore, he considered this guy's behavior to be wasteful. However, the guy thought it was sincerity and that Smart was still too inexperienced to try to bargain. Finally, the haggler got a response from his wife. He stated to the guy that he could not sell the spiral-horned ram for less than 120,000 federal coins. But the guy was not ready to buy for 120,000 coins, as it was a natural fraud on the part of the merchant. In the end, Lin Yuan was dejected because he doubted that he would be able to find any other defense-type spirit beast on the market today. Smart also sadly admitted that if they couldn't find any other beast, then they would have to overpay and buy the spiral-horned ram, since it was all for Chu-Chi. Meanwhile, the merchant beside them was thanking the people for their support in the past few days. But he also admitted that the spirit beast meat was completely sold out by now. To those who didn't buy in time, he apologized. People were disappointed that the merchant had run out of spirit beast meat. But suddenly, one of the people saw that the merchant still had some seriously injured spirit beasts left. So they wondered from the merchant if they would be able to get meat from these beasts. After all, they didn't know when another similar opportunity would fall. Hearing about the wounded beasts, Lin Yuan's eyes instantly shone. The now incredibly intelligent Smart reminded him that this was not the time to make pork stew. When he heard the people screaming, the merchant apologized to them and said that he would not slaughter the remaining wounded spirit beasts to sell their meat. He admitted that if any of the people were interested, they could walk with him to the cage and look at the wounded spirit beasts. He only had 3 wounded spirit beasts left. The merchant even claimed that any of the people would benefit from purchasing any of the wounded spirit beasts. However, some of the people resented it, even thinking that the merchant was joking. The man thought that the best option for a wounded spirit beast was to stab it and sell its meat. Some of the people completely didn't understand how one could buy a wounded beast. After all, few people would be able to afford to heal a severely wounded spirit beast. Virtually none of the ordinary people could hire a creator to do such a thing. In the end, the man declared that they all needed to disperse, as this merchant had no more cheap meat left. As soon as the other people moved away from the merchant, Lin Yuan approached the merchant. The merchant immediately told him that he was late and that all the spirit beast meat had been sold out, and he would not be selling any more spirit beast meat today. However, the guy pointed out to the merchant that he wasn't here to buy meat. Instead, he wanted to look at the injured spirit beasts that the merchant had. At this, he called the merchant a boss. In the guy's eyes, the merchant looked a bit agitated right now, so if he started haggling with him now, the merchant might chase him away. However, the guy was no longer the past version of himself, so touching his bracelet, he used the skill Calm Heart. Now the expression on the merchant's face looked much calmer. The merchant noted that he was only a few years older than the guy and asked the guy to call him Brother Yang. He informed the guy with some sadness that he had 3 severely wounded spirit beasts and that he would show them to the guy. After that, they approached one of the cages. Yang pointed out that there were 2 web-spraying spiders in the cage. They looked relatively healthy from the front, but their abdomens were torn. Therefore, he admitted that the spiders would likely not live more than 2 days. Smart clamped his nose with his left paw as he could smell the horrible stench coming from the spiders. Name: web-spraying spider. Species: drum belly subfamily, web spider genus. Level: Elite 1. Type: poison. Quality: perfect. Skills: hidden silk. Sprays near invisible sharp threads while moving. Toxic web: sprays a web laced with venom forward. After examining the spiders, the guy realized that if it wasn't for the opening of the spatial rift, they would have probably turned into bronze-level spirit beasts very quickly. Therefore, he was ecstatic, considering them to be very valuable. He admiringly said that if the web-spraying spider wasn't injured, each one alone could be sold for 300,000 federal coins. But Yang felt that this price was still too low. According to him, with poisoning and control skills, such beasts could be worth much more. But now, all one could count on was to get at best 150,000 for 2 web-spraying spiders. Lin Yuan admiringly said that he would like to buy these 2 web-spraying spiders, but he didn't have enough money. He asked if Yang would be willing to exchange the web-spraying spiders for other spiritual beings. However, Yang confessed that actually, once he was done with this batch of spirit beings, then he planned to open a new spirit being breeding center. Therefore, he thought that perhaps he might not need the spirit beings that the guy wanted to offer him as an exchange. Yang was even a little disappointed when he heard the guy's words, realizing that he had placed too many unreasonable expectations on the guy. Lin Yuan still confidently tried to ask Yang what he thought about the elite tier green vine. Yang was a little surprised that the guy wanted to exchange the elite tier green vine for his beasts. He wondered what kind of quality green vine the guy had. Lin Yuan assured him that he was confident in the quality. He even stated that if necessary, Yang could come to his place to check the goods first. Yang pondered over his offer. He knew very well that the elite tier green vine was in incredible demand, making it extremely difficult to buy. Everyone who put elite tier green vine up for sale would usually ask for twice the market price. Therefore, he began to wonder if the guy in front of him might actually be telling the truth. At this moment, another wounded beast approached him. Yang looked at it sadly, informing the guy that this beast was the last one he had left and the one they had put the most effort into. Name: Rhino Rock. Species: horned family, bull genus. Level: Elite 10. Type: Earth. Quality: epic. Skills: Rockhorn. Coats its horns in stone to launch reckless, self-harming rams. Sacrifice: when the contractor takes damage, it actively shares the burden. With eyes burning with excitement, Lin Yuan tried to find out how much Yang was willing to sell Rhino Rock for. The beast was practically bronze level and of epic quality. Therefore, the guy thought that it was the perfect spirit beast for Chu Chi. Yang was surprised that the guy wanted to buy such a beast since the condition of the beast was not very optimistic. However, Lin Yuan asked if Yang was willing to sell him the Rhino Rock for 200,000 federal coins. Yang was completely shocked by the guy's words. He even tried to find out if the guy had a way to cure Rhino Rock. In the end, Yang thought that maybe the guy was supported by some master creator. I would like to remind you that Lin Yuan had originally planned to not stand out in any way before going to the spirit beast market. Even less did he want to attract the attention of the authorities and others interested in his abilities. Now he's attracting attention and throwing around money that he doesn't even have yet. He even calls the merchant to his house. After that, the merchant goes to the authorities and whispers to them that there's a suspicious guy like this. The authorities subsequently show him what a fool he really is and how his body is perfectly fine floating in the gutter because you can't disrupt the established business of the right people. Yang was still surprised, so he decided to ask again if he understood correctly that the guy wanted to take all three of his injured beasts in exchange for an elite green vine. A satisfied Lin Yuan confirmed that this was the case. He even asked for Yang to believe him that the green vine he has would definitely not disappoint Yang. Smart also stood up for his master, pointing out that Lin Yuan wouldn't lie about such a thing. In the end, he decided to take Lin Yuan's word for it. Since the guy wanted to take all his three injured spirit beasts away, he decided that now was the time to gather all his things before they left this place. Since at that point there was nothing more for him to do at the market, since he no longer had any goods. After he is done packing, he would like to go to the guy's house to look at his green vine. One can only hope that this isn't a veiled invitation for something else, and the purchase of the spirit creatures actually takes place. What further adventures await the guy on his intended path, and how quickly will he attract unwanted attention? After that, the man took out a cube from his bag. He stated that he just had a spirit-confining box. Rhino rock and web-spraying spiders could be placed in the cube, and then it was ready to go with the guy. After doing so, Yang threw the cube directly in front of him. Upon touching the ground, the cube instantly increased in size. Smart tried to ask Lin Yuan what it was. Lin Yuan explained to him that it was a spirit-confining box patented by Ostrich Logistics. You can put spirit beings in it. It adjusts its volume to the size of the creature and also compensates for weight, making it lightweight and easy to transport even large spirit beings. Smart was amazed that something like this existed in the world. He even inquired why Lin Yuan had not told them about such things before, to which Lin Yuan rightly pointed out that their family didn't have enough money to afford something like this before. In the same instant, Rhino rock began to be drawn into the spirit-confining box. Smart looked up and waved his paw at him, amazed. He didn't expect the cube to be able to hold such a large spirit beast like Rhino rock. Yang admitted that it was a spirit-confining box of bronze tier or copper tier. However, he was still upset, remembering that Rhino rock would unfortunately never be able to reach copper tier due to his injury. He then summoned another spirit beast, named Tumor-Crowned Fire Lizard. Species, Crown Lizard family, Scaled Lizard genus. Rank, Copper tier, Level 7, Progress, 7 out of 10. Type, Poison Fire. Quality, Common quality. Skills, Broken Fang. While biting, it intentionally breaks its teeth to embed them in the target's body. Roll and Tear. After biting, it twists its body around its jaw's core to tear off flesh and bone from its prey. Exclusive trait, Fire Poison. The poison glands fuse with salivary glands, causing its saliva to carry burning toxins. His spirit beast rubbed its head against his head. Yang wanted to hear what the guy thought about his tumor-crowned fire lizard. Lin Yuan was incredibly excited. The guy immediately began to examine the tumor-crowned fire lizard with a magnifying glass from all angles, except that the latter didn't really like it. After examining it carefully, Lin Yuan felt that tumor-crowned fire lizard was not considered a copper tier for nothing. After all, the fire and poison properties effectively increased its attack capabilities. He was thrilled to see a copper tier spirit beast like this, because it was quite a rare opportunity. Yang, meanwhile, thought about the fact that despite his young age, the guy had already mastered the level of professional knowledge of a spirit creature researcher. So he concluded that if the guy wasn't a natural genius, then there was a great master behind him. Therefore, Yang believed that he had made the right bet. However, at this moment, many people started calling him. Turning towards them, he wanted to know what they were shouting for. And at the same moment, he realized the reason. Many merchants were displeased with his behavior. One of the merchants stated that he did not understand at all why Yang had decided to summon the tumor-crowned fire lizard. The man was displeased as his hard-skinned rabbit had now stopped even eating out of fear. The other merchants were also yelling at him for the same reason. Yang apologized to him, announcing that he would leave the market right away. After that, he climbed onto the back of the tumor-crowned fire lizard. Lin Yuan and Smart followed suit. Yang shouted that it was time for them to leave the market and advised Lin Yuan to hold on tight. At the same instant, the tumor-crowned fire lizard rushed at high speed, leaving the market. Lin Yuan was shocked as the tumor-crowned fire lizard was moving much faster than the bus. Smart was even more shocked and even called out for help. After a while, tumor-crowned fire lizard stopped abruptly in front of the house and exhaled tiredly. Yang was surprised that the guy lived closer than he thought. When they went inside the guy's house, Yang praised him, noting that his health was very good. After all, most people were nauseous after riding such a fast spiritual beast. However, he felt that it could not compare to the thrill of riding a flying spiritual beast. For then, one has a bird's-eye view of the earth. The guy, who had poor health since childhood, held on with his last strength. He politely thanked Yang, noting that this was his first time riding the copper-tier beast. In addition, he stated that he had a rather modest home. Lin Yuan also asked him to take a seat wherever he wanted. Smart, also like the guy, was not feeling well, and nausea was coming up to his throat. While still near the front door, Yang began to look around. He quickly realized that this house bore little resemblance to where Master Creator would live. Regretfully, he thought to himself that if the guy's green vine wasn't up to quality standards, he could only tell him that friendship was friendship and business was business. However, in the next instant, something in the room caught his full attention. Yang saw the shelf in front of him with the green vine placed on the shelf. He now believed that Master Creator definitely had to be involved in this matter. After all, without Master Creator, such a high-quality, high-end green vine could never have been created. Yang admitted that the green vine exceeded his expectations, as they were already of the highest quality. He was shocked, as this kind of quality green vine was extremely rare to find on the internet, as merchants were reluctant to put such a thing up for sale. Lin Yuan admitted that even before the green vines evolved, energy ore had been added to their soil, so the green vines had a very developed root system. Therefore, the guy was not worried at all about the quality of the green vines. Yang cracked one green vine and noticed that the damaged surface was full of sap. Now he realized that the guy was really right, and the green vines in front of him were green vines elite tier. The man asked fate if luck had finally smiled on him. Yang recalled his past, how he had once tried to get to the Master Creator before. However, the hooded men had chased him away. They were extremely dissatisfied that he had not prepared any rare or valuable materials before coming to them. They didn't like that Yang thought he was too important a person who thought he could just come and visit Master Creator like that. Yang remembered his unfortunate previous experience, fully aware now that in order to get Master Creator's help, it was necessary to bring him spiritual materials that he would like. Yang assessed his chances correctly, knowing that at his level, obtaining such spiritual materials was impossible. Therefore, he thought about establishing a friendly contact with the guy. Standing behind his back, the guy asked if he was satisfied with the quality of green vine. Yang informed that he was quite satisfied with the quality of green vine, so it was a good time to discuss the price. Despite his experience as a merchant, he decided to be honest with the guy, saying that the guy's green vines were excellent and that he could sell such green vines for 30,000 federal coins per piece online, and they would be snapped up in great demand. However, Yang offered him a maximum price of 33,000 federal coins per pot. In addition, he indicated that he wanted to be taken 100 pots. He inquired if the guy had that many green vines. Smart tried to calculate Yang's offer, because if Yang was willing to pay 33,000 for one pot, and he was asking for 100 pots. Lin Yuan, like the ultimate fool, instantly agreed to such an offer, without thinking at all how he would explain it. A few pots of green vine can still be somehow explained to those who are interested in the matter, but the sudden appearance of 100 pots of green vine is no longer a mere suspicion. He was greedily thinking about the fact that he needed to raise his spiritual energy level, and green vine was perfect for this kind of training. Yang noticed that even though the deal involved an impressive amount of money, the guy in front of him remained calm and unperturbed, as if demonstrating that this was no surprise to him and he had seen a lot of things in his life. So Yang assumed that the plain clothes and small store were probably a smokescreen set up by someone hiding behind the guy's back. After that, Yang tried to find out how many days the guy would need to prepare the goods. After pondering for a bit, Lin Yuan stated that everything would be ready in 7 days. It would take an hour to prepare one pot of green vine, while it would take 2 days to deliver the Xiao Qi spiritual being. Including the resting time, the maximum time is 7 days. Old Man Yang even cried as he realized what a blessing in the guise of misfortune had caught up with him. He had already considered himself an old man, and now he felt that he had been blessed by heaven at last, and his luck had turned to him. The old man even considered it almost a divine intervention. After that, they finalized the exchange. Lin Yuan announced that Yang could come and pick up all the goods in 7 days. Yang was surprised, wondering why the guy didn't take a deposit from him for the remaining 70-odd pots, since he was willing to pay. But the guy flatly refused his offer, saying that he would only be willing to receive payment when Yang received the goods at the agreed time. In the end, Yang walked out of the guy's house and climbed onto the tumor-crowned fire lizard's back. After that, he said goodbye to the guy, informing him that he would return in 7 days. Lin Yuan prepared to meet him at this time, but Lin Yuan at this moment was already thinking about the fact that now the most difficult task would begin for him. As soon as Yang left, the guy went with the injured Rhino Rock to the backyard of his house. Looking at Rhino Rock, Yin tried to ask Lin Yuan if Rhino Rock would now live with them. However, Smart thought that they wouldn't be able to afford Rhino Rock's upkeep. However, Lin Yuan thought that they should first rescue him and then figure out what to do with him next. Therefore, he told Yin and Smart to get off him. After examining Rhino Rock once again, the guy concluded that he was already too weak and needed to get to work on treating him as soon as possible. As soon as the guy started treating Rhino Rock, his wounds began to slowly heal. Realizing that the treatment was going well, Lin Yuan decided to speed up the process even more to see what would happen. In the next instant, everything around Rhino Rock glowed with a golden light, and he made painful sounds. The guy was completely unaware of what was even happening right now. Suddenly, he realized that perhaps this was an obstacle or a barrier to the beast's transition to copper tier. The day slowly turned to evening, and the guy was still trying to help Rhino Rock. He asked the spirit beast to hold on a little longer, wanting to break through this southern wall with him. Finally, the barrier began to crack and was broken through. As the beast broke through to copper tier, Yin was even thrown aside. Now the guy was trying to catch his breath while trying to cover his face from the dust that had formed. In that instant, a brand new spirit beast appeared in front of the guy, not the injured one from before. The rhinoceros horn iron ox stood before him. Species: Great Horn Family, Ox Genus. Rank: Copper Tier, Level 1. Progress: 1 out of 10. Type: Metal. Quality: Common quality. Skills: Rockhorn. Metal coats its twin horns, enabling a reckless, full-body charge ignoring injury. Sacrifice: when its contractor is harmed, it actively shares part of the damage. In addition, the guy was offered 3 unique traits to choose from. Scaled hide. A layer of scale-like skin grows over its body of the same composition as its flesh. Trek. Reduces stamina use while running. Pain absorption. Converts part of received damage into life force. Lin Yuan was surprised that he was even allowed to choose a unique trait for his beast. Sitting down on the grass, the guy began to ponder on the fact that he was allowed to choose one of those traits offered by the system. He liked 2 of the 3 unique traits offered, so he found it quite difficult to choose. He felt that the Trek skill was completely useless for a defense-type spirit beast. Regarding the scaled hide skill, the guy thought that this skill implied a relatively thick layer of scales on the beast's body, which in addition to increasing defense, gave the beast the ability to deal additional damage when encountering an enemy. But even this option still for some reason did not resonate in the soul of the guy. The pain absorption skill allowed the beast to absorb some of the damage and restore health. Thus, the spirit beast was literally a tank that literally wanted to be damaged. After all, the more damage it takes, the more survivable it becomes. In this case, the guy came to the conclusion that the ideal option for Rhinoceros Horn Iron Ox would be the pain absorption skill. Looking at the Rhinoceros Horn Iron Ox and all its capabilities, the guy thought about the fact that if Rock Horn and pain absorption were used together, the beast literally transformed from a defensive type to an attacker in defensive armor. He was ecstatic, as a more perfectly spiritual beast for his sister was impossible to find. Now he couldn't wait to see if anyone would risk going up against his sister. Smart was not as excited as the guy. He felt that Chu-Chi in the company of Rhinoceros Horn Iron Ox would become part of the Beauty and the Beast duo. Lin Yuan didn't care about such nonsense, as he was more concerned about his sister's safety. Furthermore, he reminded that Smart was also a beast. Such a comparison didn't really appeal to Smart. After paying attention to his hands, the guy noticed that not only had the rhinoceros horn iron ox evolved, but his spiritual energy had also become much stronger. The higher the level of spiritual beasts he cultivated, the more spiritual energy he received in return. Smart tried to move the rhinoceros horn iron ox, but it was incredibly heavy. Lin Yuan now realized that almost all of his strength had gone into helping the rhinoceros horn iron ox reach the copper tier. But if there was a top-tier master creator in his place, then combined with various rare and valuable spiritual materials, the result could be more grandiose. Eventually, Smart was exhausted and incredibly tired. He had no idea how they would be able to get rhinoceros horn iron ox to the city where Chu Chi lived. Lin Yuan calmed him down by explaining that he had decided to use the services of ostrich logistics. He had made some money this time, but since they were in a hurry, the result was that he had placed an air transportation order. So they were due to arrive soon. Smart was thrilled when he heard about the flights. He was eagerly wondering if he too could fly like Yin Yin. Smart was only thinking about how great it would be to fly in the sky. Thus ended the day of Lin Yuan, who doesn't want to draw attention to himself, but is increasingly doing so. I wonder how surprised Chu Chi will be when she finds out that her poor brother with poor health suddenly brings her a defense-type beast, and a copper tier at that. After all, he doesn't have that kind of money even if he sells his kidney. At times like this, people always have negative thoughts. Where did someone get the money from to give such a gift? That same night, other events were taking place in the Shining Moon Palace. For the ritual, they needed 3 parts patchouli buds, 1 part moistened ebony, and 1 part platinum beast blood. The man, noticing the ingredients they were using, approached Lady Ling. But the woman advised him not to say too much. The ingredients they brought were dissolved one by one in the flask of green liquid. Finally, almost all the ingredients were in the flask, and it glowed with a bright green light, illuminating everything around. At last, the woman used the final ingredient, scarlet blood. The man was shocked that such a huge pressure could be created just by mixing the ingredients. As a result, even his protective spiritual energy was forced to manifest. Now he finally realized how powerful a 5-star master creator was. The blonde woman finished mixing the ingredients and told Sikong to summon his spiritual being that needed to evolve. In front of them was Yue Ho, aka Moon Empress, one of the 3 5-star master creators of the Huiyao Federation. Hearing her words, Sikong breathed out a sigh of relief. Sikong, king-level expert. Lady Lingxiao reminded him that she had previously told him not to worry. Lingxiao, Lady of Zijing City, king-level expert. After summoning his spirit beast, the man thanked Yue Hu. At this moment, she interfered with his spirit beast's evolution process, much to his surprise. When his spirit beast suddenly fell on its back, Sikong was completely unaware of what was even happening. However, Yue Hu reassured him that there was no problem with his beast, and that the beast would evolve to legendary level. In order to do so, Sikong must combine the will rune he had comprehended earlier with it to transform his beast into a fantasy type. Sikong immediately gratefully began bowing and thanking Yue Hu, assuring that he would faithfully serve her until his death. At this moment, his beast literally became agitated. It roared furiously like a wolf howling at the moon. From his screams, the spirit beast lying in Yue Hu's arms woke up. Opening his left eye, he looked extremely displeased. His spirit beast abruptly stopped, and his rage seemed to disappear. Yue Hu didn't care about him anymore. She calmly looked at Sikong, declaring that there was no need to go through fire and water. Still, she was interested in the selection of master creator candidates. She reminded those present that each exam to level up required a 3-year wait, and one could only advance 1 level at a time. Therefore, she didn't understand how they would be able to select truly talented master creator under such a system. Sikong was surprised by her words. He even asked her again if she meant that in this year's exam, participants would be able to advance several levels in a row. Stroking her furry beast with her hand, she pointed out that there was no need to rush from extreme to extreme, and that it would be sufficient to only enter from the 1st to the 2nd level. Yuehu felt that anyone who passed the first-level Master Creator exam within 2 hours would be exempted from the 3 household profession exams and be allowed to go straight to the second-level exam. She wanted to start with Zijing City. Therefore, she told him to go and order it. Sikong accepted his current position and bowed, and was about to set off to fulfill her order. At this moment, Lady Lingqiao intervened in the conversation. She asked if Yuehu thought that there was not a single exceptionally talented young man in the Federation exams in recent years. From what she said, the current Master Creators were unable to comprehend even a single rune of will, which was the reason for Yuehu's suggestion of reforms. However, Yuehu announced that this was not the case, and that she had personal reasons. She then admitted that she was a 5-star Master Creator, like Jujun and Culinary Master. Since they had taken on their own disciples, there was no way she wanted to fall behind these old men. Lady Lingqiao was astonished, realizing that Yuehu had finally decided to find an apprentice. In addition to that, Yuehu reminded Lady Lingqiao that the spatial tide was approaching, and Zijing City was the city with the largest number of spatial rifts from which all kinds of insects emerged. Therefore, she pointed out that Lady Lingqiao, being the ruler of the city, should faithfully fulfill her duties, protect the land, and safeguard the residents. In addition, Lady Lingqiao must see to it that every spatial rift was monitored and guarded, for no mistakes could be made in this matter. Kneeling down, the woman promised her that as the ruler of the city, she would be the backbone and foundation of Zijing City. Meanwhile, Lin Yuan was unable to sleep peacefully in his bed today. Right now, he was flying on the giant spirit beast, trying not to fall down. The pilot, if he could be called that, asked the guy if he was all right. He assured the guy that once they were above the clouds, the guy would feel better. Lin Yuan tried to restrain himself, but nausea still came up to his throat. As they flew, the man noted that the guy had a rather amusing bike-sun beast. He regretfully noted that his beast was too loaded this time, otherwise he would have enjoyed rolling the bike-sun beast. When they were about to fly away, Yin Yin clawed at Smart with his claws. Smart was crying at this time, as he was incredibly upset that they didn't want to take him along. He complained that Yin Yin was flying every day, and now Lin Yuan was also going to fly the flying spirit beast. Smart was incredibly sad that now everyone would be able to fly except him. Yin Yin pointed out that they were flying even now. All Lin Yuan could do was praise him, and then he promised that he would bring him some delicious food. Remembering the whole situation, the guy assured the pilot that nothing was wrong and that next time Smart would definitely be able to fly the flying spirit beast with him. After a moment, the man noted that they had almost arrived at their destination. He asked the guy to look at the view around him, but the main condition was that the guy should not be afraid of heights. The guy was amazed, for this was the same famous view near Zijing City. The man inquired if this was the guy's first time seeing this view. He even shared that today the moonlight was bright and clear, and that was the only reason why they could see this beautiful view at all, because otherwise they wouldn't have seen anything. Lin Yuan was ecstatic, noting that it was an unforgettable experience. Suddenly, he felt something began to accumulate in his mind. After a moment, he shockingly realized that it was a rune of will. Looking at his hand, he realized that there could be no mistake, and that he had obtained the rune of will responsible for mountains and rivers. He remembered what type of spiritual beings such runes were associated with. However, at this moment, the man noticed that the guy was suspiciously quiet, turned to him and asked if he was all right. Lin Yuan assured him that he was fine. He noticed that they had been flying over the mountains for quite some time now, so he wondered how much longer it would be before they reached the city. The pilot announced that they would be there by about noon. The guy was surprised as he thought they would make it before dawn. The man explained that it was because the guy wanted to fly too. Also, the guy had thrown up before, so he decided to slow down. Realizing what the problem was, the guy asked the pilot to ignore him and pick up speed. The man agreed to do so with some apprehension. Meanwhile, morning came and events at the school went on as usual. The students were puzzled as to why they had to go to the training ground, for today was the day they were to make contracts with their first spirit beings. One of the students noted that the schedule had been changed. Right after the contract with a spirit being, there is a lesson in practical fighting. The students were puzzled as to why the practical class was put on so early. One of the students said that she heard that it all had something to do with 100-child selection. The schedule for each class was moved earlier so they could find the truly gifted students. Another student remembered hearing about it from his friend at another school too. In the midst of all these students, a frustrated Chu-Chi was walking. At that moment, as if on a stage, a sergeant instructor appeared in front of the children. He announced that this class was the practical combat for the senior 3rd grade, and the first practical combat training session for the junior 1st grade. Right after the classmates contracted, according to the numbers drawn out, the students would have training sparring sessions with the 3rd grade students to master the skills of their spirit beasts. Therefore, he assured that the students need not worry, as they will stop the fight in time. A female classmate shared with Chu-Chi that she was incredibly nervous. She inquired if Chu-Chi had still changed her mind about choosing Grey Beetle. Looking at the grey beetle on her hand, Chu-Chi sadly remarked that she hadn't changed her mind. Meanwhile, the sparring between the students was going rather fast, considering the difference in strength. Gliding Squirrel tried to escape from Dunarmer Pig. The instructor announced that the results of the 8th sparring session were that Gliding Squirrel had escaped from the battlefield, so the 3rd-year student had won. One of the students was outraged, thinking it was unfair since they had just contracted with spirit beasts and the 3rd-year students already had combat experience. She felt that the fight was completely unequal. However, the girl believed savvy Chu-Chi was next. Since Chu-Chi was the best in their class, she believed that Chu-Chi would be able to crack her opponent. After that, the instructor announced the 9th fight. He asked if both contestants were ready. The 3rd year with dyed hair declared with confidence in his voice that he was ready. Seeing him, the other students began to discuss it, for they saw that Feng Lixing had come out to fight against Chu-Chi. One of the students heard that he had relatives in the Master Creator Guild. Another student mentioned that Feng Lixing was participating in 100-child selection and that he was only a few battle victories short of that. Yet another student reminded the others that Chu-Chi was also planning on going through 100-child selection. However, one of the students admitted that he had heard that there was some kind of problem with the girl's spirit beast. Feng Lixing was already celebrating his victory in his mind. He remembered that last night the Master Creator Guild had posted an update, and suddenly he had such a convenient opponent that would allow him to increase his victory percentage. He felt as if the Heavenly Lord himself was helping him. He was already anticipating that not only would he pass the 100-child selection, but he would also easily become a Yuehu disciple. The guy was anticipating that his ascent to glory was very close. Plus, he had heard that first-year Chu-Chi was planning to contract with Grey Beetle, so the girl against him didn't stand a chance. Feng Lixing believed that she could only blame her poor family for such a poor state of affairs, who had squandered all of her talent. Going into the sparring session, Chu-Chi was filled with determination. She believed that even though she only had Grey Beetle, she refused to just give up and run away from the battle with Feng Lixing. Chu-Chi declared that she was ready to spar, but at this moment, someone suddenly called out to her. Turning around, she saw the teacher who refused to give up and brought the spirit beast that stubbornly refused to go to the girl. Approaching Chu-Chi, she handed her the reins of the spirit beast. The teacher stated that she could only do this. She handed the yellow-spotted hound to the girl. The woman confessed that even though yellow-spotted hound had only reached elite grade, she refused to let Chu-Chi bury her talent. Chu-Chi couldn't find the right words, but at this moment, her brother appeared on the huge flying spirit beast, who by some miracle, and not at all suspicious, jumped off the beast, even though he couldn't even run 20 meters a short while ago. Finding himself with 2 feet on the ground, and without breaking at least both legs, the guy thanked the teacher for her kindness. He also said that he had brought a spirit beast for his sister. His sister was somewhat perplexed. Except for some reason, she didn't wonder how her brother, who couldn't clean up the backyard, suddenly jumps from a great height and doesn't crash, and yet it might not be her brother at all. Plus, he had been sick on the road, now it was like he had an easy ride. Walking up to her, he claimed that he made it in time and handed his sister a spirit-confining box with a spirit beast inside. To summarize, he was late and the situation was decided by the teacher, who was desperate to help her student, and that's the only reason the guy had time to arrive. He showed everyone that he's not that sickly, plus he brought a spirit-confining box from Ostrich Logistics and generally flew in on a spirit beast from Ostrich Logistics. and they have a poor family, and it doesn't look suspicious at all to everyone around him. And that's all for today. Thank you very much for watching the video. If you would like to see a sequel, please like, subscribe to the channel, and leave your wishes in the comments. You can also subscribe to Telegram to know about new videos. Bye everybody.